So for me, influence is really moving people from point A to point B, right? Getting them from their perspective to your perspective, right? And so we need to do that whether we're selling something, whether we just want having a conversation with a family member and we need to have them make a decision. We're really trying to influence them. How do we do that? How does it come back there? There's an industry out there that's really great about moving people from point A to point B. You move millions and millions of people every day. It's the airline industry. Well, a couple months ago, United Airlines had a problem. They tried to influence somebody off one of their planes and it didn't go well. I don't know how many people remember that story. Okay. So they were trying to influence this person off. And they did what all of us would do. They offered the individual a reward. They said, if you get off, we're going to give you $800. And that person made a decision and said, you know what, that $800 is not worth me leaving. So he stayed. So what was the next thing they did?
Drag them out.
You know, before they dragged him out, they brought the police officers in, right? They brought the authority in. Typical extrinsic motivation, you bring in the authority. So I don't know if you guys were as bad as I was in elementary school, but there was a few times I got sent down to the principal's office, right? The teachers go, you need to go talk to the principal. That was the authority figure. And when that didn't work, they would call my mom. And I would be chatting. My mom would be like, okay, you knew she was trying to influence me to the better behaviors. So what did they do here on United Airlines? They dragged them off, right? They used physicality to get him off the plane. And guess what? It worked. But it cost them millions and millions of dollars in lost revenue and legal fees. So there's got to be a better way. We're not going to go out there and drag somebody to our business. We're not going to go and drag them to make the sale. It's not going to work that way. So we need to figure out how we can come back and influence these people better. So here's the best way to do it is you want to connect and build rapport. And there's 3 ways you can do that. First is to share stories. So when you're out networking and talking, sharing a story, something from your background, something from your sales, why you got into the business, something that can relate to that other person. The second and most important one is to ask questions and listen deeply. You want to ask questions that those people are going to respond to and give you. When we have a conversation, we become much more engaged and we remember who that person was. So we're answering those questions, we're building that relationship up with you. And then lastly, you want to find something in common. I was at a networking event not that long ago, and I met somebody from my hometown. We had an instant connection. We knew the same streets, the same restaurants, the same bars. We knew some of the same people. There was a connection there immediately. So I built on that. So it doesn't have to be from your hometown. Maybe you went to the same school. Maybe you have the same background. Maybe you have to work in the same industry. There's something you can do there and influence there. So trust is the next step. How do you guys build trust? You do what you say you're going to do? Following up. Honesty, being honest.
Good reputation. Good reputation.
Good reputation. How do you get a good reputation?
Be interested in the other person.
Yeah.
Consistency.
To me, it's always about meeting those expectations, right? There's an undercurrent of expectations. If I can meet those expectations to you on a consistent basis, you're going to start trusting me. You're going to start bringing me in and go, okay, I know he's going to do that. He always says he's going to do that. When he can't do it, he'll tell me he can't do it. So it's about building that trust. Another thing you can do is give something of yourself. And so when I do this presentation, there's a lot of people say, well, I can't give away my products. And I'm like, no, I don't want you to give away your products. I want you to give some expertise that you have. Or maybe some service that you can offer. Right? So if you're a realtor, you could write a blog about the 5 things you need to do before you sell your house. Maybe you're a hotel manager and you can say, you know what, here's the 5 tips you need to know before you start traveling, before you pick your hotel. So these are important things that people don't know, and I think, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, people don't realize how much people don't know their expertise. Our expertise is common sense to us because that's who we are. And we know that, we built that. And most of the times we're around people that know the same things we do. And so when we go out into the world and we're meeting people for the first time, you'd be surprised how many people don't know that with what you know. So give away your expertise. And one of the things that we do that we think is a shortcut is we hand out pens. Right? We hand out pens with our names on them and our phone numbers and that kind of stuff, and it just doesn't work. And I think about this, right? Because you get the pens, and what's the first thing you do with one of those pens?
In a pile.
Yeah, in a pile. Ends up in your junk drawer. That's where all mine end up, is a junk drawer, right? And so I think about the people that are on those pens. And I look at the typical services. So it's a realtor, a moving company, maybe it's a roofer. And I'm thinking, how often do I need those services? And now when I do need those services, do you think I'm going to my junk drawer to find a pen? Absolutely not. But it's interesting. There's a reason people hand out pens. So back in the 1940s and 50s, when banks used to sign your loan, you would used to sign a loan with the bank, they would give you this really nice pen to sign the loan. And then after you signed it, they would put it in this nice little wooden box, and they would hand it to you and give it to you. The pens back then were worth something. Not every single house had a pen. And so this was something like, wow, I have this pen, and they would put it on their desk. And every time they had to sign something, they would pull that pen out. Every time they had to write a check to the bank, they would write that back. And they would remember that nice guy down at the bank and say, oh, he was great. He was great. And so and it made sense, right? So this pen right here is worth $1 million. So trust me, if you gave me that pen, I would remember you. Right? So there's a perceived value. You want to give them a perceived value. So think about what you can give as a perceived value. Now I know Dennis, so I'm going to pick out Dennis. Sorry to pick on him. But he's so great about giving education about his products. His products are relatively new to the market. He gives a great education, and that's his value. And he invites people all the time to come sit with him. Come to one of his group meetings to learn about his product. Always free, always good. And so there's a great value there. So think about what those values are that you can give away. And then lastly, I think there's something we sometimes forget. We have to ask for the sale. Right? We get in there and we build this relationship, and we're now best buddies. And if I never go and say, hey, do you want some leadership coaching? He's never going to come across and go, oh gosh, I really need some leadership. He might be hesitant to ask, feeling like, oh, that's kind of awkward. So you have to ask. You have to ask, hey, maybe I have a leadership assessment that might be great for you. I'm sorry, I'm over here. You're standing right where that's the pick one seat. So you have to act. And sometimes I think we're hesitant to do that, especially new business owners and people that are just starting networking, to ask for that referral. Like, hey, we met, do you have a referral? I'm looking for small business owners. And that really helps kind of build that up and move on. So, my question for you is, how are you influencing your clients? Are you using extrinsic motivation and punishment? If you can't see it, really picture that's him all beat up and bloody from the airplane. And so or are you using intrinsic motivation? Are you tapping into what that person is thinking and wanting and desiring to get your point across? So that's what you need to think about when you're trying to start influence someone. So again, my name is John Thalheimer. I'm a leadership guide. I help small business owners get better results. Thank you.